Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's edition of NASCAR 7, and we are Busch Series racing on our custom schedule season at the Michigan International Speedway for race number 6 of 30 on the season. Be sure to like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content as we get into tonight's full race live stream coverage. And we will be starting at the rear of the field, as I put in the chat about 15 minutes ago. No practice, no qualifying. I was on the golf course today, got home about 7:35, ate dinner, and here we are. So I didn't really have much time to get practice or qualifying in. It is a 250-mile race, 125 laps for the running of the Michigan 250. So hopefully everything's going to go well. We have a good handling race car. Jimmie Johnson going to try to go for his third win of the young season today. He sits in the top 5 in points, trying to narrow that points lead on Kyle Busch, his teammate. Green flag is in the air. We're racing. Matt Kenseth leads the field to the green. Ice Demon King 92, Hammer, Patrick Shadley, Wade Solinsky, and others, welcome into the stream. Three by three off the start. We'll be seeing that probably all day today. Not a terrible restart for Jimmie Johnson at the tail end of the field. A lot of side drafting going on in the backstretch. Jimmy trying to get a feel for his race car right now in the early going. A little loose in the middle of the corner as he makes a couple of passes on the opening lap. Gets underneath his teammate Brian Vickers in the 57. This 48 car's got a lot of speed. Probably looking at a 2 pit stop race today. Oh boy, oh boy. That could have been trouble as they were 4 wide going into turn 1. Somehow there was no wreck. I was waiting for something terrible to happen there. Somehow they all made it through. Johnson had a head of steam. Probably should have backed in line to not make it 4 wide. Now the points leader and his other teammate Kyle Busch also starting at the tail end of the field. So all 3 Hendrick cars bringing up the rear after starting all outside the top 30 today. My goodness. 3 wide right in front of JJ. Kyle Busch making a move. Here comes Johnson. 4 wide into turn 3 again. Contact with Bernie Lamar. Oh, Kyle Busch went up the hill, got into his teammate. And everybody hangs on again. Johnson made the contact with Bernie Lamar, but then Kyle Busch overdrove the corner on the inside of Jimmie Johnson and made a mistake himself. Stacked up the pack behind him. Seen 4 wide twice already today. And somehow, no caution either time. And now they're 4 wide again. Crazy move by Jimmie Johnson. That time it worked. No error whatsoever there. Making clean passes all over the racetrack until 3 wide into turn 3. On the other hand, was a little bit different story. Just have to hope he's taking care of his tires. I don't think he necessarily is right now, because he is definitely pushing the issue. Matt Kenseth has led the first 5 laps in tonight's race. Nearly contact getting into turn 1. Right in front of Johnson. Jimmy's car bottoming out in the middle of the corner. Menard way up on the outside in the 11. 39.144 that last lap for the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. A lot of quick passes. He's up to 16th. He's got an absolute rocket ship tonight. We'll say Michigan was one of my worst intermediate tracks on NASCAR 06. It's our first trip here in NASCAR 07 in any series. Johnson's definitely showing a lot of speed. Going to the, thought about going to the apron all the way through the tri-oval. Instead goes back up to try to side draft Kurt Busch a little bit. Before heading into turn 1, has the advantage on the inside. He gets by the 39 car for 12th place. Kenseth setting the pace at the front of the field right now, but Jimmy Johnson probably setting the pace, bringing up the rear of the field. And he is not far from breaking into the top 10 in less than 10 laps. 3-wide dive. It's being very dicey. That's the third time he's gotten down onto the apron. There's grip there for now, but as the tires start to wear out, there's probably not going to be grip down there for very long. He is up to 11th. Gets to the inside of Greg Biffle. Goes up to block the 16. Gets to the inside of Kenny Wallace. Didn't get off turn 4 very well, though. He was so far down on the apron of the racetrack that time that he just couldn't get back into the gas as soon as he would have hoped. Black A6 for tuning in. Johnson up to 9th. And looking for 8th off turn 2 underneath the 101 car, I believe. The motion blur was making it a little hard to tell what number that was, and it was the 101. Ron Hornaday in the 33 car will be just up ahead. He is the points leader in the Truck Series season through 7 races. This is race 6 for the Busch Series here tonight. Yeah, I gotta get in the habit of not hitting that apron anymore, just because if I start to do that once we get like 20, 30 plus laps into the run, it's not gonna end well. Surprised there's enough grip down there now. Johnson underneath of Hornaday. Side by side for position. Hornaday is desperately trying to side draft Jimmy Johnson down the front stretch. Johnson clear, and now he'll block the 33 car into turn 1. Jimmy up to 7th place. Down to the bottom of the track trying to block as well. Yeah, there's 2 33 cars, 2 number 9 cars, Mayfield and Said. And I think there's 2 39s, which are Ryan Newman and Kurt Busch. .315 that last lap. Yeah, the Armor All car is Ron Hornaday, and then the Old Spice car is Tony Stewart. But then there's a 133 that also looks like Tony's race car, too. So it's very confusing. Very convoluted. Matt Kenseth definitely looks like he's the class of the field in the early going. He is absolutely pulling away right now. Johnson got underneath of Sadler in the middle of 3 and 4, but he couldn't actually complete the pass on him. Got through the field pretty quick, and he's starting to stall out a bit. Into turns 3 and 4 again. Johnson down low. Sadler not giving that 48 a lot of room to try to make the corner, but Johnson's going to be clear off turn 4 and into 6th. Side by side between Mark Martin and Martin Truex Jr. in front of him. They slow each other down with the side draft. Johnson's got to run. Martin way down low with a block. Into turn 1, Johnson's going to have to let him go. Although Truex still stuck on the outside. Now Tony Stewart got a little bit wide in the center of 1 and 2. Mark Martin gets past the 33 car for position. Johnson underneath him now. And side drafts on the back straightaway for 4th. Jeremy Mayfield in 2nd, blocking Mark Martin into turn 3. Johnson clears Stewart for 4th. Gets to the inside of Mark Martin, who got a bit loose in the center of the corner. And Jimmy Johnson is up to 3rd place. Off turn 4, he clears Mark Martin. Going after 2nd on Jeremy Mayfield. Down to the bottom of the racetrack, this 48 car. I mentioned it's a rocket ship once before. It's still a rocket ship. 16 laps into this race, he has gone from last to 16th. Or to 2nd, sorry, in those 16 laps. Martin to 3rd as he follows Johnson, trying to catch back up to the 48. And of course, Johnson trying to get up to where Matt Kenseth's at. Jimmy Johnson's not going to really be in any hurry to try to get by Kenseth. He's just looking for a solid finish today. 10.6 average finish in these first 5, get my math wrong, 5 races for Jimmy Johnson so far. Outside of that season opener at Daytona, he's had 11th place finish or better in every other race, and the only finish that was outside the top 10 other than Daytona was Talladega, of course, where he finished 11th. So outside of the super speedways, Jimmy Johnson's been really good in this Busch Series season so far. And even starting at the tail end of the field today, he's definitely showing some speed. There's one car out of the race that blew an engine already. Unaware exactly who that may be. Now that Jimmy Johnson has ran down the 17 car of Matt Kenseth. No major plan right now of trying to make a pass. A little bit of smoke in turns 1 and 2, like there might have been a couple cars that went up the track, maybe towards the wall. Jimmy pushed so hard in the early going of this race too. That's why he's kind of sitting back now that he's got track position. He doesn't have the clean air necessarily, but the second best thing has to be right there with the leaders. Saw how loose he got on the apron that time. The hardest car to always pass tracks like Michigan, California, Pocono is that driver with the clean air. It's easy to keep with them in the draft, but it's hard to make the pass. And Johnson may be quicker than the 17. It's going to be tough to try to find a way to get in front of him. We're going to take this first fuel run as far as we possibly can, though, first. Just to see, obviously, if we can make it on fuel. As far as we can. I'd probably like to think we can go right around 50 laps. two definitely pulling away from the rest of the field. I mean, Kenseth actually pulled away from everybody else before Johnson got the second. Johnson kind of caught and ran him down. Kenseth doesn't have a win in the Busch or the Cup Series yet on our season. His teammate Mark Martin, though, has 3 wins in the Cup Series in the first 4 races and already 1 Busch Series win as well. Not going to plan on taking a field pass in this first run either. We're just going to simply stay behind Kenseth. Really try to manage the tires. And then we'll try to race him in the second run. Even though Jimmy would like to lead the most laps, still very early in the season. This season's 10 races longer than the truck season, so even though we're behind in the truck series, it's a little different circumstances. There we have 13 races to go. And after tonight here, we still have 24 races left on this full season points format campaign. Alternate through the different camera angles for the first time in this race today. Ryan Jensen, thanks for tuning in. Oh gosh, I was looking at the chat too long. Well, I'm in the wall too. I was looking at the chat way too long there. Messed myself up. I think it was Charlotte. Kenseth had a really fast car in that race. 100 laps to go. 25 laps in the books at Michigan. We went caution-free in a truck race last night on a 1.5 miles, which took place at Charlotte. And then the first race of what was a doubleheader last night for the truck series at Atlanta on a 1.5 miles, we had 4 cautions. We have not had a caution-free Busch race. Right about halfway on fuel right now at this point in the run for Johnson. So definitely looking as if he can go about 50 laps. And as expected, it's going to be a 2-stop race today. Overdrove the entry at that time too. Mark DeMars, welcome into the stream. Honestly, the car handles pretty good in that middle to upper groove. This car's really capable of driving pretty much every lane on the racetrack. If we stretch both runs out as far as we possibly can in this race too, it's only going to give us about 25 laps left to go in that last set of tires, so we can really push hard on that final tire stint of the race. Johnson electing not to really stay in the draft behind Kenseth that time of the tri-oval. He's just going to try to take the shortest way into the corner. Kenseth up the hill quite a bit. Jimmy Johnson a much better corner through 1 and 2, and now will hop in the draft on the back straightaway. And you can see the run he's got getting into turns 3 and 4 as he closes a little bit more on Matt Kenseth. We have made it to lap 30 in this one. 39.107 that last lap for Johnson, his fastest lap in the early going of the race. NASCAR Vintage 17, welcome into the stream. Yeah, I mean, we could split 42, 42, 42. I'd really like to just go as far as we can. Especially on this first run, just to gauge for sure, even though it's pretty much looking like we can go about 49 to 50 laps on fuel. There's definitely grip in that middle to outside lane. Jeff Henson, welcome to the stream. Really just two cars in the field right now. Kenson's running the same line Jimmy Johnson is, too. Both cars definitely having success with it. Johnson might as well get to build a tag team at this point with Kenseth. Well, he just sits behind him. Kenseth's going all the way down to the bottom of the track that time. On the back straightaway. As long as we don't lose the 17, that's the big thing right now. Early in the race. Just stay in contention. Jimmy able to save a little bit more fuel riding in line behind Kenseth in the draft down these long straightaways at Michigan as well. You'd have to imagine Kenseth's burning a little bit more fuel in his race car. I mean, that's true, too. Michigan was one of the tracks in NASCAR Thunder 04, especially, that I would blow an engine at almost every time I went there. And every now and then at California. I'd like to think it won't have that issue today. Jimmy Johnson never really had much luck at Michigan, though, so if there is one track we were bound to do that at, it might be this one. He did have one cup win at this track in his career. He got back the corner up quite a bit when Kenseth enters as low as he is. Johnson just trying to stay in the draft behind him. .007 that last lap. I will not be shocked if we see any lap times below 39s at this rate right now. Johnson still managing those tires very well. 37 laps into the run, none of them in the yellow on the tire wear indicator yet. Not quite down to a quarter tank of fuel left, but a little bit more than that. Probably getting there pretty soon, though. I'm honestly just kind of hoping that Kenseth pits like a lap or two before us so we can just get 5 bonus points that way. Oh boy. Yeah, I got a little loose that time off turn 2. Almost overcorrected it. Kenseth pulled the 48 just a little bit. Getting a little over 35 laps into the run. And now you're starting to see the car get maybe just a little bit squirrely in the center of the corners. Center to exit, especially the exit of turn 2. Quarter of a tank of gas left this point in the run. Out of control's okay. Yeah, I mean, loose is fast if he can hang on to it. I'm able to hang on to it. You can definitely see the rear of the car, the right rear specifically, fanning out towards the wall off the exit of turn 2. It's not bad off of turn 4, but off of turn 2, the last couple of laps especially, it is starting to act as if it's driving on a little bit of ice. Not much. Thin sheet. I mean, the good news is when we're riding in line behind him, I'm able to actually get the car to tighten up a little bit in the dirty air, so that's kind of helping the exit of the corner just a little bit more. We'll alternate through the different camera angles one more time. In today's race, one car out of the race blew an engine in the very early going in those first 10 to 20 laps. Man, that sun glare is pretty bright off the exit of turn 4. Don't really see it till you get to the middle of the corner. Kenseth and Johnson still have a long ways before they catch lap traffic, despite the pace that they are putting on the rest of the field right now. Yeah, the fuel window's definitely open now if anybody wants to pit early. That could still make it on 2 stops. Just kind of waiting that at any given moment we could see Matt Kenseth hit pit road. Now the right rear tire's in the yellow on the tire wear indicator. And the fuel tank down to about about an eighth of a tank of gas left at this point in the run. 45 laps in the books. Matt Kenseth has led every lap so far in the race tonight. But Jimmy Johnson in second place is right there behind him. Kenseth slid quite a ways up the track. Thought he was about to get into the wall. Did a good job keeping it off of it. Until Kenseth's tires probably starting to slide out from underneath them maybe a little bit as well at this point in the run. Definitely won't be hitting pit road that time. I don't think anybody has hit pit road yet. As we hit lap 47. Brian Vickers onto pit road, so I guess we're just now seeing drivers hit the pits. Kenseth pulling down to the bottom of the track. I believe he'll be pitting this time. And so this will give Jimmy Johnson his first lead of the day as Kenseth will hit pit road. Both right side tires in the yellow now on the tire wear indicator. This will be 5 bonus points for Johnson as he'll lead his first lap of the race. So Johnson able to save a little bit more fuel than Matt Kenseth. Riding in line in the draft behind him versus Kenseth having nothing but clean air the whole race. So that's a nice 5 bonus points for Johnson. Still in the first half of this one. Got a slow car down to the bottom of the track. Mark Martin has blown an engine. That's a tough break for Martin. He was running in 3rd place earlier when Johnson broke into 2nd. Martin followed him to get by Jeremy Mayfield at the time. What a tough break. And I think this is Kenseth. Down on the bottom of the track, about to go a lap down as he's getting up to speed. Johnson closing in on him. Gonna get into the draft of the 17 car. Into turns 3 and 4. Can't quite get to him. Kenseth swings wide. Johnson to the inside. Nope. Couldn't get him. And Kenseth trying to take advantage of those fresh tires. Johnson was desperately trying to get in front of him. And you can see the fresh tire advantage that Kenseth's got. Look at how quickly he pulls away from the 48. Johnson can find a way to stay in the draft behind him. That could be big. He's going to try the back straightaway. Jimmy will pit this time by. He made it 50 laps. It'll be 4 tires and fuel for the 48. And here he comes. Oh boy. Coming in hot. We made it. We made it. Came across the bank into the racetrack down onto the apron and definitely got a bit light. It'll be 4 tires and fuel and no adjustments for the 48. It was a good pit road entry. Got a little squirrely on me. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. Corvette Mode, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Kenseth should easily be the leader. Pitting a couple laps before Johnson. There he goes. It's going to be way ahead of the 48. Johnson will be in second. Tony Stewart stayed out to lead a lap during the green flag pit stops. He stayed out longer than anybody else, went an extra lap than Johnson. Man, Kenseth's going to have a massive lead. Just pitting 3 laps before Jimmy Johnson. It was a clean stop for the 48. 4.3 seconds is the lead for Kenseth. Fast pit stop by that 17 team on top of it. I mean, honestly, the fact that he actually came out ahead of Johnson was pretty impressive. That just goes to show how fast of a pit stop that 17 crew had. I think the 48's fast enough to run him down, though. Plenty of laps left in this race. Still over half the race remains. And while this is going on, we'll take our first field pass of the race today. We'll go back to Brian Vickers in the 57 car first. He is in 10th. And remember, he actually started in 42nd, just in front of Jimmy Johnson. So Vickers has actually made his way through the field quite a bit. He's 17 seconds off the lead, but he's got through the field, though. What has been a caution-free race. I've already had everybody pit once. Wade Slansky, thanks for tuning in. Oh, jeez. Looking at the chat too long. I did that earlier with Johnson. We'll swap to Kyle Busch at the start-finish line next time by. Vickers in absolute no man's land right now. Nobody anywhere close to him, both in front and out of the rear view. You know, that'd be pretty wild if we had back-to-back caution-free races. I know it'd be two different series, two different tracks, but 100% race in the Truck Series at Charlotte last night and at Michigan tonight in the Busch Series, 100% race. Kyle Busch up to 5th. He also started outside the top 30, so all three Hendrick cars in the top 10 right now. And Kyle Busch is about 11 seconds off the lead. He's 6 seconds ahead of Brian Vickers. Yes, the plan is for me to attend Talladega in a couple weeks for the spring race. And I will be there all weekend, too. So if anybody's going and sees me, say hi. I'll be there for the ARCA and the Xfinity race on Saturday, and then I'll be there for the Cup race on Sunday. I'm excited for my first race of 2023. Been a long time coming. Can't wait. It's cool you're going to Kansas, though. You still going to Michigan this year, too? Oh, boy. And your parents will be at Martinsville. Tell them to scarf down a bunch of those Martinsville glizzies. You don't have to say it word for word like I did, but highly recommend a Martinsville hot dog, though, if they haven't had one. Yeah, so Jimmy Johnson's 6.7 seconds off the lead. It seems as if Matt Kenseth's setting a whole new pace. Curious to see what the lead will be at the start-finish line this time. Johnson's able to actually cut into that deficit at all. Maybe a tenth or two quicker that last lap, but that was about it. Also, Ethan, welcome into the stream. I don't think I shouted you out. Smoking the Pot, welcome to the stream as well. Hardest track to go caution-free? Probably Martinsville. I feel like Martinsville would be the hardest to go caution-free. Martinsville or Bristol, just because of the short track. There's just constant traffic everywhere. I don't know if Cody Ware is going to get reinstated. I have zero clue, honestly. Has Carson Ware been reinstated by NASCAR ever since he got indefinitely suspended, like back at, what was that, 2019? I think it was before COVID. It could have been after that. I could be wrong on my years with that. Whenever it was he got suspended, was he ever reinstated by NASCAR, or is he still indefinitely suspended for all we know? I think Kenzo caught the back of lap traffic, and ever since then, Johnson's starting to reel him in a little bit more again. Should go to Kansas this year? Not this year. I went there for the September race last year. But no, I'm not going to be at Kansas. I'm trying to get to North Wilkesboro this year. That's going to be my trip for May. That's what I'm setting it out to be, at least. I really want to go to that one, especially, I was actually at North Wilkesboro a couple of years ago. I visited when I went to Charlotte for the Roval back in 2019, and then I also went there, man, when was it? I think it was when I went, no, it wasn't Bristol. It wasn't Martinsville. I'm trying to think what track I went to where I stopped and I went there again. I kind of went out of my way. I don't think it was when I went to Martinsville. I know I was there twice. I honestly can't remember when I was there the second time. Oh, it was, I'm so stupid. It was when I went to Charlotte for the 600. That's what it was. 2021. I should have known it was obviously when I was going to Charlotte. Because it wasn't really that... It was kind of on my way there, really. I got asked to leave, though, the second time I was there. After I was only there for, like... I, like, just walked in. I think there was, like, a sheriff that, like, was coming up the way. And the caretaker of the place is like, oh, yeah, you're going to have to... Like, we're going to have to ask you to leave now. I'm like, okay. He just allowed... He opened the gates for me, and then, like, 2 minutes later, he told me I had to leave. I didn't even get to take any pictures the second time. First time I was there for like 20 minutes. I was talking to the caretaker. Well, I was probably looking at the track for 20 minutes, and then I was talking to the caretaker. I was probably there for almost an hour. He's just telling me a bunch of stories about the track and his time there and what he was doing, working for the track back in the day. I got lost. I remember getting lost at Michigan. Did I? No, I didn't get lost. My dad, I was looking for him. Or no, it was my grandpa. That's what it was. My grandpa was in the Brad Keselowski t-shirt line. and I was waiting for him. And, like, he wasn't there when I went back. I was like, where'd he go? I think Elliott Sadler might be down a cylinder. He's very slow on the racetrack. He might have been the first driver that blew an engine and then made his way back into this race. Whatever happened there, Sadler definitely slow. And Kyle Busch moments ago also blew an engine. Notice the red X by his car number. So Kyle Busch, who was in 5th place, has blown a motor tonight. So the early season points leader having some difficulties. His first DNF of the season. Tony Stewart wasn't that many points behind him. And remember, Tony stayed out to lead 1 lap. Kyle Busch didn't get to lead any laps today. Leads down to 3.5 seconds. Kenseth definitely hasn't been as quick since he got into lap traffic. Outside of the slow Elliott Sadler race car, Jimmie Johnson hasn't really caught any other lap traffic himself. John Andretti, Paul Menard at the tail end of the lead lap. Well, I guess technically they're a lap down right now. Some of the last running cars on the racetrack. Jimmie Johnson works his way through traffic. Cleared John Andretti cleanly. Gets in the draft behind Paul Menard on the back straightaway. Pulls on a line into turns 3 and 4 to get by the 11. First couple lap cars giving a lot of room for Johnson. Got to be very appreciative of it. Johnson about 3 seconds off the race lead. Oh boy, contact intimidated the car on the inside of Casey Mears, and I think he got loose and made a little bit of contact with Casey in the center of the corner and allowed for Jimmie Johnson to clear both of them with a quick, clean pass as he slipped by 3 wide to the bottom of the track. It's going to be the quickest way to get around them with them being side by side in front of the 48 the way they were. Still 3 seconds off the race lead, though. Matt Kenseth's in the lead right now. Johnson led 3 laps during green flag pit stops by staying out longer than Matt Kenseth, and then Tony Stewart led 1 as he stayed out longer than both the 48 and the 17, and that is it. Those are your top 3, but those are the only drivers to lead laps. Matt Kenseth has absolutely dominated this race. Johnson trying to reel him in over the course of this run, was maybe a 10th quicker that last lap. When he was in the midst of heavy lap traffic, Johnson cut the lead from about 6.8 seconds back to just about 3, a little under 3 seconds off the lead now, but it evened out once Johnson ended up catching lap traffic, and he hasn't really closed the gap much more. He's got clean air now, so maybe he could try to reel Kenseth back in again as Kenseth gets through a few more lap cars. Looks like there's a dense group up the way. And there's still at least a couple lap cars, I believe, in between Johnson and Kenseth currently as well. Johnson about another 10th quicker that last lap. A 10th quicker lap, 50 laps to go in this race. Jimmy Johnson has not led more than 39 laps in a race this season through the first 5 races, despite having 2 wins. He led 39 in that Bristol win, and then he also ended up leading only 17 laps in the win that he ended up having back at Charlotte at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. Jimmy picked up a little bit more that last lap. We have one more field pass left, but with Kyle Busch out of the race, we'll just have to drive a little bit longer with Brian Vickers. A couple lap cars side by side. On the back straightaway. Halfway through this fuel run right now. I mean, Matt Kenseth's pit crew was so fast during that last stop as well. Really wonder if that's going to be the case again. Johnson down on the bottom of the track, trying to squeeze underneath the fantasy driver. 3 wide into turn 1 with Boyer up on the outside. Johnson going to get by them both cleanly. Reed Sorensen in the 41 car also there. It was probably the toughest passes he had to make on those lap cars. Got around 3 of them through the corner. So the fuel window's open to make it on gas to the end of this race. Interested if we see anybody short pit. Lead down to about 1.3 seconds. I think Kenseth caught Elliott Sadler in the 90. Johnson catching a group of cars quickly. Ooh, Sadler ended up holding up through turns 1 and 2. Johnson flies by the 90. Still caution free in this race. Johnson underneath the 131. Got a little bit loose. Could hang on to it. And he was about a 10th slower than Kenseth that last lap as he got held up in lap traffic. Johnson a little loose off turn 2. He's pushing hard trying to get by the 131. He just hasn't been able to clear him yet. Thought he was going to have a good chance to there. Ended up not. A little bit of contact getting into the corner. Lap traffic starting to hurt the 48 now. Another 10th slower. Barely cleared the 117. Side by side in front of Johnson. He'll take it 3 wide into turn 3. Slide job. Got around them both. Needed that. Two more lap cars in between the top 2. Kenseth's got a little bit of clean air again. Johnson does not as he's catching up to another lap car. A lot wider entry that time into turns 3 and 4. Makes the pass on the 151. All clear off turn 4. Bertie Lamar in the 77 will be the next car in front of Jimmy Johnson. Johnson a 10th quicker than Kenseth that last lap, even with having to pass the lap car through turns 3 and 4. Didn't run side by side very long, though, that there wasn't much of a side draft that slowed Johnson down. Bernie Lamar in the 77 will be the next driver now in front of Jimmy Johnson. He's shocked if Kenseth blows a motor. I mean, his teammate Mark Martin already blew an engine tonight. Don't forget about that. His other teammate Greg Biffle was in the top 10, at least in the very early going of the race. Not sure if he still is or not. We'll take our second and final field pass of the race today when we get to the start-finish line this time by. And we will see exactly where Brian Vickers is running on the racetrack at this time. Kenseth up to, or sorry, Vickers rather, up to 6th. A lot of smoke getting down into turn 1. Vickers slowly cutting his way through the field. He's like a half a lap off the leader. Over a half a lap off the leader. Just now getting to the start-finish line as Kenseth's getting into turn 3. "40 laps left here at Michigan." I wonder if Elliott Sadler caused all that smoke. He was just up ahead a couple laps ago. Johnson pitted? Are we sure? I don't know if he pitted because Vickers is still in 6th. So 2 more laps with the 57 car, and then we'll drive as the 48 of Johnson the rest of the race. Honestly, as slow as Sadler is, considering we still have just under 40 to go, we'll probably catch him quite a few more times yet in this race. I don't know if Vickers is going to get a top 5 the way things are running now. He is so far behind the next car. Lap car or lead lap car at this rate. Oh, caution's out! For the first time in the race, looked like trouble getting into turn 1. And this will change everything. A debris yellow will be our first caution of the race at lap, what was that, lap 89? The hood has fallen off of the 191. We're going to have a pit stop. And everybody's going to be bunched together again. Oh, here we go. It's the money stop time. 4 tires and fuel. Everybody will be coming in. Final stop of the day. And who will win the race off of pit road? Most recent winner was Kenny Walls at Bristol. I mentioned Johnson won at Bristol. I don't know why I said that. Jimmy Johnson's wins were at Lowe's Motor Speedway in Darlington. He swept that doubleheader in races 2 and 3 this season. Finished second at Bristol to Kenny Wallace in the last race, who dominated the second half of that one. Tony Stewart going to win the race off pit road. Johnson's going to... Oh, boy, that's a drag race for second. I think Aaron Crocker had him beat. Tough to say for sure. No, Johnson had the win there. So Jimmy Johnson will be second on the restart. Vickers gains 2 spots from 6th to 4th. And at lap 94, the green flag's back in the air. And we've got quite a few drivers a lap down. Once we get up to speed, I'll move back to Johnson here, because I don't expect Vickers to take off well on the restart. She didn't. Had a little bit of contact, but didn't really help. Oh, more contact. That was with the car that just brought out the debris caution. Wonder where he got that damage from. I mean, there was some smoke going into turn 1, but there was also a time, I think there was smoke going into 3 very early in the race. Johnson's 3 wide middle off of turn 4 as he battles for the race lead in the midst of a ton of lap traffic. To Johnson. Oh, no! I swapped back to Johnson and he wrecked. Caution flag is out. A lot of damage on the 48. I mean, I swapped back to him and then he just crashed. And that'll be our second caution of the day. That stinks. I'm not pitting. I can't afford to pit. Might end up having a debris caution. I would not be shocked if debris falls off this 48 car. Green flag back in the air. Lap 99, back-to-back cautions here at Michigan. And we'll have 27 laps to go in the restart as Tony Stewart's back out in front again. Johnson trying to get to the bottom. And there's the debris. Johnson was trying to block. Actually, I don't even know if that debris was off Johnson's car. It wasn't. Came off the 151. Somebody spun into the grass behind them, too. Couldn't tell who that was. So 3 cautions back to back to back all of a sudden late at Michigan. Aaron Crocker, I don't even know where she was running, but she moved into second place on that last restart and came out of the pits in 3rd. Lap 103, green flag back in the air. We're down to 23 laps left in the race. Caution again. Cautions breeding cautions late at Michigan after going 89 laps before getting our first yellow. We have had 4 back-to-back to back-to-back. There's the debris off Johnson. That was his front bumper cover, I believe, that came off. I'd assume it was the front bumper. The problem is we're killing a lot of laps under caution. This is less and less time to try to get to the leaders. Kyle Busch blew a motor earlier in the race. Tony Stewart, who was very close behind him, second in the standings, leads in the late going with 19 laps left as we get to another restart. Johnson trying to get to the bottom and stay to the bottom. He's going to lose a spot to Brian Vickers and J.J. Yaley, though, as well as Kenny Wallace. He's losing a bunch of spots, moving to the inside as quickly as he did. Sorensen's a lap down. I don't even know if Johnson has speed. Aaron Crocker has gotten underneath Tony Stewart and the lap traffic. And Aaron Crocker leads off of turn 4 at Michigan. For the first time all race, as Show capitalized on the late race cautions. Need this to stay green for a while because Jimmy Johnson does not take off well with this damage on the front of his race car. I think he's still got some speed in it. If he could just stay in the draft of the cars in front of him. A lot of side-by-side racing up there as they're slowing each other down enough for Jimmy to try to make up a little bit of ground. And we have no clue what happened to Matt Kenseth, but he did not win the race off pit road. I can tell you that much, and he's nowhere to be found right now outside the top 5 as well. So the guy who dominated the races, once that first caution came out, he lost the race off pit road. Tony Stewart back to the lead. Crocker did get 5 bonus points leading your first lap. We're down to 17 laps to go at the Michigan International Speedway. And I don't think Jimmy Johnson's got the speed he did, because he's not even really able to pass this 119 car in front of him. Very tight getting into turns 3 and 4. Almost some contact. 119 crowds Kenny Wallace. Johnson takes it 3 wide to the bottom. Crowds, he's clear, he's up to 5th. He's 0.8 of a second off the lead. There's a slow car at the back of the field. I think that might be Elliott Sadler, though. That was at the tail end of the lap line on the inside on the restart. Crocker going to fall back to 4th. J.J. Yaley up to 3rd. Good news is we don't have to go too long on these tires to the end of the race. Yeah, and Vickers, who was in 6th, is now up to 2nd off this restart. He was 4th out of the pits, too. Got by Johnson in a hurry, gets by Crocker. Yaley follows him. Jimmy was a 10th slower than Tony Stewart that last lap. Hoping he's fast enough in the corners and that he can just stay in the draft of Aaron Crocker down the back straightaway there. Side by side for 2nd with J.J. Yaley and Brian Vickers. It's allowing Tony Stewart to pull away. Fastest lap, 38.954, that last lap for Johnson. Fast enough if he stays in the draft. Deep dive, trying to get by Aaron Crocker desperately. That's going to slow him down quite a bit, though. It was too deep of a dive that just did not work out for him there. He's going to lose some time. Vickers trying to get back alongside J.J. Yaley again. They're side by side for 2nd. I mean, Tony's just going to drive away. They keep doing that. That's how Kenseth was able to drive away at the very beginning of the race, and because we went so long without a caution, it worked out well for him. Yaley into P2. Trying to catch his Cup Series teammate. Vickers going back for 2nd place again. I mean, they keep battling like this. It at least keeps Jimmy Johnson somewhat in the hunt. He's going to have to be a little bit more patient when he gets behind these guys and not make the move right away. because that costed him when he couldn't complete the pass. Traps behind Eric Crocker in the back straightaway. We're going to have 11 laps to go this time by. The leaders are going to catch Elliott Sadler at least one more time. Johnson right behind Crocker. Planning on just following her through turns 3 and 4. They both get by J.J. Yaley. Yaley falls to 5th. 38.858 that last lap for Johnson, his fastest of the day. Vickers has ran down Stewart after pulling away from the 98 and the 18. Johnson going for 3rd underneath Crocker. Not clear. Crocker went way down the track to try and side draft, and it worked out perfectly for her. She also had a nice run in the draft behind Brian Vickers on the back straightaway as well. Johnson just does not have that straightaway speed. 10 laps to go. At Michigan, who's going to win? Will we stay green to the end? Johnson with the dive underneath Crocker again through turns 1 and 2. He didn't clear last time. This time he does, and he's up to 3rd. And sits behind his teammate who pulls out of line. Johnson all the way to the apron into the corner. He gets into Tony Stewart. He sent it. He saw the 90 in the way. He went for the lead, and he got it off of turn 4. And they'll be coming to 9 to go. Trying to get his momentum back as he scrapes the wall on the outside, and Vickers leads his first lap of the day. Hendrick Motorsports 1-2 at the front of the field. Johnson didn't actually lead that lap to make the lead change himself, but it's Brian Vickers who takes the lead. Johnson kind of knocked Stewart out of the way, and I think Stewart fell back to 5th. It's going to be tough to get back by Vickers, though. They may catch Sadler one more time. They might not. Stewart trying to get back by Yaley for 4th. Johnson trying to get underneath his teammate Brian Vickers. He gets underneath him. Any opportunity he gets, he's got to attempt to make the pass. Because if he restarts in 2nd, if we get another caution, I don't think he's going to have any chance to win the race. If he has the leader, if he's the leader, we get a late yellow. At least he can play a little bit of defense. Tony Stewart's reeling these guys back in. He's not done. Oh, Vickers maybe got a little loose. Not enough. Six laps to go. Tony Stewart's back into 3rd. Johnson has the run, pulls low, into turn 1. For the lead, he gets into his teammate. And the HMS Chevys maybe holding each other up a little bit. Tony Stewart going to go to the bottom of the track, 3 wide for the lead. Johnson in the middle. Stewart down low. Johnson squeezes Stewart off turn 4 as they clear the 57, and Tony Stewart takes the lead. 5 laps to go at Michigan, and Crocker's back in the race. Slow car on the bottom of the track in turns 1 and 2. Somebody's blown an engine. They're trying to get back to pit road and keep the race under green flag conditions. Couldn't tell who that was. Looked like one of the fantasy drivers on the back straightaway. 4 to go this time by. Vickers falls to 4th. Eric Crocker got tight as she overdrove turn 3. Johnson desperately trying to stay with Tony Stewart. 8 miles left in this race. Johnson gonna slip to the inside of Stewart. He will not be able to clear him though off of turn 4. Tried to side draft him. He made a little contact and stalled Johnson's car out a little bit more. 3 laps left. Drives it really deep on the entry into 1 and 2. Trying to force Stewart into a mistake. He got loose. Tony Stewart gets loose. And Jimmy Johnson nearly takes the lead. So close. And we're down to 2 to go. Can he force Tony Stewart into a mistake? He did. Again. Johnson slips to the inside. Stewart's in the wall. Stewart gets into the wall, but he stays in the gas, and he still pedals past Johnson, who's slow with the damage on the front of his race car. And Tony goes wide again, and he's up into the wall. And Johnson's going to take the lead as they come to the white flag. Stewart is all the way back to at least 7th. Aaron Crocker with a run. Final lap of the race, it's checkers or wreckers. Jimmy trying to protect. Clips the apron a little bit. Center of the corner, he's just blocking for his life. The car is slow down the straightaways. J.J. Ailey, Aaron Crocker, Brian Vickers, and Jimmy Johnson battle for the win at Michigan. Johnson slides on his corner entry into 3. Pedal to the metal. 3 wide for second. That's going to help Johnson off turn 4. Here they come with a run. And it's going to be Jimmy Johnson and a 3 wide finish for second behind him. 83 100ths of a second. Jimmy Johnson is going to get the win. Incredible last lap turn of events. Tony Stewart got loose, ended up in the wall. Johnson slipped by off turn 4, coming to the white flag. And he's so fortunate. Get the drive to victory lane at Michigan on the front stretch, as he saw right there. A 1-2 finish for Hendrick Motorsports. Johnson with the win from last to first, and Brian Vickers from second to last to second. They only led 11 laps combined. Johnson led 7, Vickers with 4, but they got the job done. And Jimmy Johnson gets his 3rd win of the season through the first 6 races. 1 hour, 49 minutes, 15 seconds total time of the race today. 8 100ths of a second. The margin of victory. Lead changes, 16 of them with the 4 cautions. And the average race speed was 137.28 miles per hour. Stewart got loose a couple times. The one time he ended up in the wall, he still held on to the lead. And then the second time, which was off of turn 4, he ended up in the wall. I don't even know where he finished. He finished 10th place. After leading with less than a lap and a half to go, he just got loose. He got loose up into the wall. Johnson put pressure on him. He never touched him. And Johnson was able to capitalize. If they didn't go 3 wide on the backstretch into turn 3, I don't know if I could have held on because we were so slow down the straightaways. But they were 3 wide down the backstretch and 3 wide all the way through 3 and 4 that they held each other up, that by the time we got to the front stretch, they didn't even have a run on me because they were all stalling each other out, just trying to battle for second. Literally the best thing that could have happened was them being 3 wide for second behind us. Incredible 4-car battle for the win. None of those 4 cars started inside the top 20. Vickers second. Aaron Crocker led 2 laps late, finishes third. J.J. Yaley finishes fourth. Jeremy Mayfield gets a top 5, finishing fifth. Kenny Wallace finished sixth. Matt Kenseth, who led 85 laps today, finishes 7th after starting on the pole. Remember, Matt Kenseth had a massive lead when the first caution of the race came out for debris off the 191. That happened with less than 40 laps to go. I think there was 37 laps left when that first caution came out in this one. And we had 4 cautions back to back to back, but Kenseth lost spots on pit road. He went in as the leader, and I don't even know where he came out. He had over a 6-second lead when the yellow flag waved. I mean, this was Kenseth's race to win until we had all those late race cautions, and he just couldn't get his way back through traffic after losing spots on pit road, and he was just not in contention at the finish. So, Hans Good, the only fantasy driver to get a top 10 today, finishes 8th. He's been doing good in the truck series. He's got 2 wins there, gets a top 10 in the Busch race. Martin Truex Jr. finishes 9th, and then Tony Stewart rounds out the top 10 today, led 26 laps. Biffle Hamlin behind him. We didn't have many DNFs. We know Sadler finished, but just many laps down. Finley DNF. We saw Mark Martin blow an engine. We saw Kyle Busch blew an engine. And then Casey Mears, I guess, blew an engine late, as well as Bernie Lamar. So Lamar was that driver that blew an engine in those closing laps that was on the apron. Actually, Smith. Smith was the one that blew the engine then late because he finished 5 laps down. So we had 6 drivers DNF'd, and then Sadler had engine issues, but then finished the race. And we had 24 cars finish on the lead lap. Well, we'll get to check out the point standings going into the next race of the season. It's definitely going to be even tighter, and with the early season points leader blowing an engine in the early going of today's race, finishing 41st, that being Kyle Busch, we will have a new points leader. I think Tony Stewart may still be the leader in the standings. Our next race will be the AT&T 250 at the Milwaukee Mile for race number 7. I struggle there in the truck series, so I'm curious to see what I'll be able to do in the Busch race. Doesn't matter how many laps you lead as long as you lead the last one. Johnson led just 7 today and got the win. Tony Stewart is the points leader, even finishing 10th. If he didn't lose 9 spots in the last lap and a quarter of the race, I mean, he'd probably have a near 50-point lead, but he lost a lot of points there late, getting into the wall, so he only has a 3-point lead over Kenseth, who dominated, and Kenseth probably would have ended up winning the race if we didn't even get a caution. If we didn't get a caution, Kenseth was going to win, without a doubt. There was no question marks there. He was obliterating the field all day. Johnson, who wins the race, is now 3rd in points, and we probably could have still moved up to 3rd with Busch blowing the engine. We came in 5th. Who else did we pass? Sadler. Sadler had engine issues too. So Sadler had engine issues. Kyle Busch had engine issues, so we passed both of them. We're 42 out of 1st now. If we didn't get a caution, Kenseth would have won. Johnson probably would have finished 2nd, and then Tony Stewart would have finished 3rd. Stewart would probably be Kenseth would be the points leader, barely over Stewart. And then Johnson would be a little bit closer than what he is, if I'm not mistaken. Because Stewart would have... Well, no. Actually, we wouldn't be as close. Because Stewart would have finished 3rd. We would have beat him still, but instead of by 5 points, we only would have beaten him... Or we only would have beaten him by 5 instead today, because we won, and he finished 10th. We beat him by almost 50, so... Yeah, we could be about 90 points back still if it wasn't for that. Wacky finish to the end of this Michigan race. But still early in the point standing, so it's going to be tight regardless because we're only 6 races in. Our other teammate, Brian Vickers, is 8th after finishing 2nd today. 1-2 finish for Hendrick Motorsports. 4 wins for HMS already this year. Busch had that season opener at Daytona. Johnson won the next 2 races after that. Took him a few races before finally getting back to victory lane again here today at Michigan. A track that Johnson had a lot of bad luck at in his NASCAR career, but today has a lot of good fortune in the late going and gets the win. Appreciate every one of you guys that tuned in for tonight's stream. Be sure to like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. I will see you guys tomorrow night on the channel. More NASCAR 07 coming your way. Can't wait for it. Had a great race tonight. Hopefully we have another great one tomorrow. See you guys later.